Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Thank you, John. You know, there is a way to put an end to the destructive nonsense that terrorized Sandy Hill following the Panda game on Saturday. You know what the answer is? It's not to cancel the Panda game. It's called getting tough, getting serious about bad behavior. How do you do that? Well, what you do, identify some of the young punks destroying the property. They have videotape, apparently, of some of them. So identify the young punks, smashing a car, urinating, vomiting on innocent victims' front porches. Suspend them from the university. And if they are guilty of something really serious, expel them. You know, kick them out. Depending upon the gravity, kick them out permanently or at least for one semester. Now, it won't change what happened on Saturday night, but you know what? It'll sure as hell put an end to the dangerous, idiotic behavior in the future. You know what? Let parents know that if we catch your little darling doing something that is damaging, they'll be walking the streets rather than attending class, okay? If nothing else, that's going to catch the attention of the parents. The idea that little Johnny or Sally risks being expelled from university if they're caught doing really bad things will put an end to this kind of moron mentality once and for all. But will that happen? Oh, of course not. Not in your life. In fact, I think it's safe to say that even those who are caught on video smashing up a car and hurling pieces of it onto nearby homes will get no more punishment than perhaps a little bit of a fine, a little slappy on the wrist, okay? And these days, fines, particularly to students, kids, mean absolutely nothing. Why? Well, because mommy and daddy will pay it. And you know what? The kid will be the big hero. Oh, did you see what I did? You see this? You know, I tore this car apart. Yeah, it'd be a big hero. Come on. Hey, I was a student once. I know how it works. So do you. They pay the fine. Mommy and daddy will pay the fine. You can be sure that, these kids are already in university, so mommy and daddy probably have a few bucks, right? And, oh, well. You know, but I believe that what happened in Sandy Hill is only too illustrative of what's happening in this country in a broader text. Evidence is growing, and it's everywhere, that Canada is becoming increasingly willing to accept bad behavior. In some cases, we're prepared to even reward bad behavior. The re-election of Justin Trudeau is ample evidence of that. Few people in this country are guilty of more bad behavior, really bad behavior, than Justin Trudeau. But we turned a blind eye to all of that, years of it, and we put him back in power. We rewarded him for bad behavior. And you know what? This laissez-faire attitude to bad behavior is now leaking over into outright criminal behavior. As you know, Harper and the Conservatives, a million years ago, toughened up a number of laws in this country. They, for example, imposed minimum sentencing for certain offenses, particularly those involving guns. Almost one of the first things that Trudeau and his liberal bleeding hearts did was overturn most of those laws, soften the law, made less punishment for criminals, including serious criminals. You talk to any police person today, and they will bitterly complain about the so-called revolving door justice system. Repeat offenders, and I mean repeat offenders, usually get a little slap on the wrist, if anything at all, and they're back out on the streets before you can say Jack Robinson doing the same thing all over again. And increasingly, police are hampered from doing their jobs by, once again, the bleeding hearts and the liberals, The so-called carding process has been halted. Well, carding was just, you know what? The cop uses experience. He sees a group of guys or somebody doing something very strange at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he has the right to go over and ask them what the hell they're doing. It would be just good policing, but you can't do that anymore. So, now, no matter where you look, punishment, even for serious crime, is being lessened, lowered in this country. There is even a movement in some quarters to scrap entire police departments or defund them, which is the same thing, and leave policing, if you could call it that, up to social workers. Social workers are going to go and deal with hardened criminals. That's the mind of the left in this country. you know, we're paying the price, folks. We're paying the price. They keep telling us, oh, overall crime is down a little bit in this country. Yeah, it is. You know why? Because we legalized marijuana. Possession and so forth of marijuana for most places is not illegal anymore. So as a consequence, the number of crime, the overall crime is down. But serious crime is way up, particularly serious crime involving guns. Shootings, I mean, up. They're up considerably, not only in Toronto, but they're up in Ottawa and almost every city in Canada. It, gun crime is soaring in this country. And what do we do to try to stop? I mean, we all know, anybody with a brain knows that the main problem with gun violence, well, there's gangs, but how did they get the guns? Well, they were illegally imported, brought in here from the United States. Are we making, as a federal government, making any effort to stop importation of illegal weapons? No, not in your life. Instead, you know what they're doing? They're targeting BB guns and teenagers and shotguns for for hunters and farmers. That's the target. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not much. The target is not on the criminals with the guns. The target is not on the importation of guns, which is the big problem. No. The target is hunters, farmers, and their guns. I mean, folks, we're paying the price. Have a look at the record. Let me ask you, if you don't believe me, then let me ask you this. Do you feel safer walking the streets of Ottawa today than you did 10 years ago? I don't think so. Do you feel less safe walking the streets of Ottawa today than you did last year? You probably do feel less safe. And why is that? Well, one of the reasons is that increasingly criminals know that even if caught, which is highly unlikely, the penalty will be almost minimal. I see a story just the other day. Uh, well, we see stories all of the time where repeat offenders, and I'm talking about people who've been before the courts, 8, 9, 10, 15 times, and they're back out again. Maybe serve a week sentence or whatever it is, if they're convicted at all. The evidence is everywhere, folks, and we don't seem to be learning this. The evidence is everywhere. Concrete evidence, no matter where you look. It is this. The softer you are on bad behavior, the more bad behavior you will have. The tougher on bad behavior that we are, the less bad behavior we will have. The tougher on crime that we are, the less crime we will have. The softer on crime, the more crime we will have. The evidence is everywhere. Everywhere. And it's been that way for years. And anybody with a brain knows it. You talk about scientific data, it's all there. See what happened in other jurisdictions when they really toughened up. The reason the mob went wild in Sandy Hill is because every member of that mob knew damn well that no matter what they did, there would be no consequences. Most of them have lived all of their short lives with no consequences. They never were punished for bad behavior or minimum punishment, if at all. Nothing ever happened at home when they broke the rules. So why would things be any different in university or on the streets of Sandy Hill? And that's you can deny what I'm saying, but I think the evidence. I'm not suggesting that all kids, most kids are good, but there are kids, and far too many of them, very clearly, who have had little, if any, discipline at home, I mean, it's not only at home. I must point out that it is so bad that in our schools today, elementary schools and even high school, you cannot fail anymore. In fact, in some schools, teachers are not even allowed to use red ink because it looks punitive. You can't fail. And not only that, and by the way, the same thing holds true in university. Universities today just absolutely almost completely refuse to fail any student. So the student knows not only can they smash things out on the street and get away with it. I mean, they were never punished at home for bad behavior. They were never punished in school for lack of good behavior. In other words, studying. They passed no matter what they did or how bad they were. And it's the same thing in university. You can scarcely ever show up at class. Come on, scarcely ever show up in class. Scarcely ever take a note. And you know what? Fail the exam. They're not going to fail you. Very, very rarely. And if you dispute me, please give me a call because I see evidence of it everywhere. I hear stories about it almost every day. Kid doesn't work, doesn't show up for class, etc., but still passes. Uh, you know, will we ever learn the lesson, folks? I don't think so. Few paltry fines may be handed out following the mob madness in Sandy Hill, but you know what'll happen? Mommy and Daddy will pay the fines. Mommy and Daddy have made alibis for these little brats all their lives. So mommy and daddy are going to, in fact, some, not them all, but some mommies and daddies will actually blame the police or somebody for failing to do their duty. They won't blame the kid. In fact, we have a city councilor now who says, the way to deal with this is cancel the panda game. Don't punish the culprits. Don't punish the idiots out there smashing a car. No, no, no. Even though we have video, no. Let's cancel the panda game. Ay, ay, ay. You know, we couldn't control marijuana use, so we legalized marijuana. Couldn't control drug use, so let's legalize drugs. What comes next? We're going to legalize bank robbery. We pretty well legalized assault. I mean, you can pretty well beat anybody up these days, and if you're really, really unlucky, you may spend a couple of days in jail, and that's about it. Bad behavior in politics, in the home, and in the classroom, and on the streets these days, more often than not, is rewarded, certainly not punished. Don't believe me? Ask Justin Trudeau. And mark my words, I will eat my shirt if there is a stiff penalty handed out to any of those kids, even those caught smashing that automobile. If you read some of the, I think that in some cases, residents, poor innocent victims living in Sandy Hill, they want to live there in peace and quiet, but nice, quiet district, terrorized. Punks, on their porch, urinating, vomiting, throwing stuff. I mean, uh, some of these people were terrorized. And as I say, I will eat my shirt or sweater, whatever you want, if any of these kids who are caught, I spend any kind of there's any kind of penalty at all, a penalty that's not paid by parents. Will they be expelled or suspended from university? Oh, heavens, no, we couldn't do that. Hand out some stiff punishment? Oh, God, no, we can't do that. Oh, my. Blame somebody else. Let's blame the police. The police weren't enough there. Shouldn't have had the panda game. People shouldn't be living in that area. Well, what do you expect? I had a guy blamed Doug Ford. He says it's Doug Ford because of the lockdowns. These kids, he says, were locked up for 2 years. And this is what happened. So it's all Doug Ford's fault. Never the kids' fault. Never the punk's fault. No. Any comments on that, folks? Any comments on that? We have a phone call, do we?
Yeah, Emma is a student at Carleton University. Emma, go ahead. You're on live with Lowell Green.
What do you say, Emma?
Well, I do believe that, the people who did attend the Panda game, like, I don't want those people necessarily at Carleton because you're thinking that's like what's happening when they're drunk, right? Like, that's what's happening after something bad happens. Well, we have a bar at Carleton. Like, what's going to happen if something happens there, I don't want to be associated with those people. I also do know that they do fail people at Carleton. Professors don't always care about you. They will fail you, even if you work 10 times hard or whatever. At least
I doubt if anybody has ever been failed at Carleton.
Oh, Well, I failed a few classes, so.
No, you fail a class, but they're not going to fail you the year. The
You know,
university administration doesn't want that because it looks like a failure of the administration. I could be wrong. They may be failing, but very, very few are failed.
um, I know that's true, but they also have this expectation where you can't fail more than 2 classes without redoing it and passing it.
Oh yeah,
So.
she got to review it. Yeah, but yeah, there's no real punishment. Do you agree with me that nothing is going to happen to these kids? There may be a fine for a few of them, but mommy and daddy will pay the fine. Isn't that what's going to happen here?
Probably.
Thank you for the call. How do you enjoy Carlton? What year are you in?
I'm in year 3 of a physics program.
Okay.
So, and I do enjoy Carleton. I enjoy the campus. I do right now think, however, on a different issue, their COVID screening methods are quite intense. Just from being there, like getting stared at from eating, and like being like
Oh,
stared down for
poor
eating.
dear. You've got to. Come on,
But
come
like
on. You know what? Poor little snowflake. Earl, you sound like a poor little snowflake. Oh my
no,
goodness.
no.
You're
But
the
if
most
I'm
privileged. Can I
eating,
tell
I
you?
shouldn't have to put my mask back on because
Can
I
I tell
can't
you
eat during
something?
my classes.
Can I tell you something? You're a third-year student in physics at Carleton University. You are one of the world's most privileged young people.
I know I'm lucky enough to have this experience, but at the same time, I have a right to eat on campus,
Oh dear.
and I shouldn't be told to put my mask back on while eating.
Okay.
I'm social distancing, right? But I can't eat during my classes. So you're expecting me to go already
You
3
see,
hours with
but
4 hours without
listen,
eating.
yeah, this call is unbelievable. Here we have a bunch of kids out smashing cars, and you're worried about the fact that they're imposing something on you while you eat. What a little snowflake. I mean, good God, if you're the future of this country, God help us all. Thank you for your call. Unbelievable. That's all she cares about is her bloody
Can't
meal.
eat in
I have a right
class?
to eat. I have a right to eat. My God, I'm a university student and I have a right to eat. Ay, 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 ay. Oh, I should have asked her where the hell St. Lawrence Seaway is. Are you still there, Emma? No.
No, she's gone.
I'd like to know if Emma knows where the St. Lawrence Seaway. Third year at Carleton probably has no idea. Oh my God!
Good
I'm
call,
not
though.
putting.
Good call. Otherwise, Emma, we
Oh,
appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank you.
but it's indicative. I mean, a lovely person, obviously very intelligent, lovely personality, but concerned not about what the fate of the country or what happened or anything else. No, just the fact that they're doing something. I'm not sure they're looking at her when she's eating, and this is her problem. Ay, sacre bleu black, the bing bong bats. Okay, Shields.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I know they listen sometimes at Shields, and I'll bet you Mark Shields right now is shaking his head and say, "Oh my God!" I mean, Mark's been trying to hire one of these young people for the months to work for him. He's offered a good job, and they can't get anybody to work. But my God, she's got a right to eat. Oy,
Can,
oy, oy.
can you eat on the job at Shields?
Oh my goodness. The point I guess they're trying to make here is, oh, listen, we got problems, but if you're shopping, if you're buying your appliances from Shields, you won't have a problem. They're good people. I don't know if they graduated from Carleton or not, but I'm going to tell you this. No, I won't say anything more. I'm still shaking my head over that last call. Folks, save money, shop locally. This is a wonderful family-owned business. Grandpa started the business 1947. Then Mark's father, and now Mark himself. So the third generation Valley people, good people, and great prices on their appliances. John, we got some texts, I hope, here.
Absolutely, we do. We'll start with Christine, who just posted this on Facebook a moment ago. She says, a 20-year-old that I know went over his phone data by $700 2 months in a row, and his parents paid for it. My son
Sure.
went over by $45, and he paid for it himself and learned his lesson.
Good.
Possibly it has something to do with parenting, she says.
I bet you he wasn't involved on the riots in Sandy Hill.
Jules is over on Twitch. She says, if that was my kids, I would never pay their fines. They would learn that mommy and daddy will not bail them out. Other comments from Joshua. Canada is willing to accept mediocrity. Glenn says, no responsibility for actions. Lisa, nice to have you with us again today. She says, it's not a justice system, it's a legal system.
Whatever.
Yeah. Peter says 5-year ban from higher education in Canada, jail and fine them. Heck, you can get higher fines and possible jail time for not wearing masks or showing your passport. Many laws we used to have got removed by Trudeau, as Lowell says, removing carding, etc. Rob says, but why was the simple possession of marijuana ever illegal in the first place?
That's not the issue here. All I pointed out was, I'm not saying whether it was good or bad. All I'm saying is that the reason that the figures indicate that crime is down is because we're not arresting people for marijuana anymore. That's all. I'm just explaining something here. Okay, go ahead.
An email from Lisa sent to Lowell at blasttheradio.com. Lowell, as someone who was accosted in 2017, perpetrator got off with a slap on the wrist with a shooting last summer in my neighborhood. I sure as hell don't feel safe anymore. With femicide at an all-time high in Canada, women especially, I'm sure don't feel safe in thus country.
Let me let me give you an example. This is a personal example. A number of years ago, we had a break-in at our house, and a number of items were stolen, including a whole bunch of special tapes that had been given to me by various people. Some of them had signed it, Stompin' Tom Connors and so forth.
Oh, wow.
And so anyway, I went on the air. I was on CFRA. I reported the fact and some of the things that had been stolen. 2 or 3 days later, I got a call from a guy. He said, "Lowell, there's a bunch of your tapes out at a pawn shop out on Saint Laurent Boulevard." So we sent the police out there, and sure enough, they found a bunch of tapes there, and on the tapes were a number of fingerprints of a well-known criminal, a well-known thief. So they arrest the guy. We got all sorts of evidence, including his own fingerprints on my stolen items, and he tells the judge, "Well, I was out at the pawn shop, and Lowell is a favorite of mine. I was just looking at I've just picked him up, and you know what? They let him off." They found the guy with his car filled with stolen items, but the judge took pity on the poor guy and let him go. That's a true story. True story. That's the way in many cases the criminals are treated here. Well, it's just a minor crime. He only broke into the house, stole a bunch of stuff, nothing very valuable. Let him go, let him go. That's the attitude, sadly. While we're talking about how increasingly we seem prepared to accept bad and even criminal behavior, while we're at it, folks, what do you think's going to happen to those people that we discovered avoiding taxes by holding offshore accounts? Now, apparently, it's legal, barely. But do you think any of them will ever have to pay proper taxes? No. Will any of them ever lose prestige in society? No. Will any of them ever lose their jobs? No. Look at the King of Jordan. I love this. The King of Jordan has been pleading poverty for years, has been sucking off the charity tit of a number of nations for many years here, including got $800 million from me and you, from taxpayers, and $800 million. Guess what? The guy's a multi-billionaire. He's got investments in real estate, expensive real estate around the world. The guy is worth billions and billions of dollars, and he's sucking off other countries, and we've chicked in $800 million. Do you think anything will happen to this guy? No. Will he still be King of Jordan tomorrow? Yes. Will he be still the King of Jordan the next week? Yes. And will we still keep giving him money? You damn right we will. Oh my goodness. Anything seems to go these days. We just simply don't take any of that stuff seriously anymore. John, any more comments on any of this?
We do. I was just talking with a neighbor of mine across the street. We live in a little cul-de-sac, and they were saying that the people who back onto their houses, they face onto a church property. And the priest there apparently has been having one hell of a time with neighborhood kids 2, 3 in the morning, setting off these fireworks. And the police show up, and the police never do anything. And the argument is always, from the police, well, if we do something, they're back out tomorrow doing it again anyway. So, but this has led to several neighbors apparently putting their house up for sale and just moving. They're tired of it. The inaction and the continuation of this day after day after day. So, yeah, I feel you. I heard fireworks. I didn't realize it was getting that bad. But yeah.
Well, you see, but this is another example of where bad behavior is not punished. There are no consequences.
Exactly.
So these kids growing up, I mean, if these kids are setting off fireworks today, tomorrow God knows what they're doing, and then in a couple of years they're out rioting, smashing cars in Sandy Hill because there's never been any consequences. In all probability, there's been no consequences, serious consequences in their home. Do any parents ever ground their kids anymore? Any parents actually ever take away their e-phones or whatever, the iPhones or whatever the hell it is? Some do. Good parents do. But obviously, there are a hell of a lot of parents out there not living up to their responsibilities. But as I say, it's not just the parents. The legal system, very few consequences for bad behavior. Political system, we reward really bad behavior. Check out check out the King of Jordan. Check out Prime Minister Trudeau. I mean, if there are no consequences for bad behavior when the person is young, then there's a chance that there'd be no consequences when the bad behavior grows worse and worse until finally there's criminal behavior and we all throw up our hands and say, what the hell happened? Well, what happened was this kid never had any consequences. He figured he could do anything. He never had to work in school. They still passed him, went to university, mommy and daddy paid for it, etc. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not painting a picture here of all. I would say the majority of parents do a great job. The majority of kids are good kids. But there were about 2,000 kids rioting in Sandy Hill. So obviously there's more than just a few dozen bad parents and bad kids out there, okay? Maybe not bad kids, but kids who've never had consequences. Can you blame the kid if all of his life or her life there'd never been any consequences? One of the things that always used to amuse me, although it's not very funny, you're in a store sometime and the kid is acting up, okay? 4 or 5 year old kid. And mommy says, how many times have I told you not to do that, Johnny? And I can just hear Johnny say, well, let me see. You've told me not to do this 427,000 times and you didn't do anything then and you're not going to do anything now.
Yep.
That's the message.
We always mocked my mom. If you don't behave, I'm going to turn this car around and go home. She never did.
That's right.
Never did. But this is my point. You've got this poor priest trying to run this church. He's afraid that somebody's going to get hurt on his property and that their insurance rate at the church is going to go up. And then you've got these homeowners innocently, getting fed up with this and their driveways being taken over by, kids hanging out at night and rocks being thrown at their cars and garages.
See, where are the parents there?
Up and move. Exactly.
Why are parents letting these kids stay out till 3 o'clock in the morning? I mean, obviously you're talking about a lack of parenting. Well, there's an illustration of it. If you've got kids out at 3 o'clock in the morning setting off firecrackers, you've got parents who abdicated their responsibility. You know what? If you're not going to have a responsibility as a parent, don't be a bloody parent. Wear a condom. Take the pill. Jeez. Before I go, I have to tell you. One of the acts of really, 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 really bad behavior was what the province of Ontario under Kathleen Wynne did to taxpayers. Billions of dollars. Apparently, well over 100,000 manufacturing jobs have left this province, never to come back, okay? So all of this was to build windmills. We were going to be the great energy. We were going to set the example for the world of how to conduct green energy. We were going to revolutionize the world. Well, today, it's a reasonably sunny day, reasonably breezy. At 1 o'clock, and check this yourself, okay? IESO.ca. I urge you all, IESO.ca. There's the site, really easy. It's all right in front of you to tell you how much power we are burning, where it's coming from. Well, as at 1 o'clock today, Ontario was burning 15,545 megawatts of power. Of that, wind was providing 196 megawatts. Solar was providing 150 megawatts. So of that total, at 1 o'clock today, reasonably sunny, reasonably breezy, we were producing 2.2% of all of our energy needs from 42 wind farms and millions of solar panels that have cost us tens of billions of dollars. Thank you, Kathleen Wynne. Thank you, Liberals. Thank you, environmentalists. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.